What's going on, guys? Marcus here with the Reformation Woodshop, and happy Valentine's Day. 2 months ago, my wife, who is very, very pregnant right now and very, very forgetful, lost her engagement and wedding ring. We called all over town, we couldn't find it. She said she thought she might have lost it in the front yard. I used a leaf blower, blew the yard out completely. Recently, after I mowed everything, blew all the leaves out one more time, I found her wedding bands. But she doesn't know that. And because I knew Valentine's Day was coming up, I put those things in my back pocket so that when Valentine's Day did get here, I'd be the husband of the year. Is that unethical or like scummy, or am I just the smartest man on the planet? I'm not just gonna give her rings for Valentine's Day because that's just a butthead move. I'm gonna handcraft something nice and beautiful that she can keep them in for the rest of their life. Make sure to stay tuned to the end so you can see my wife's reaction to the fact that I've been hiding her rings from her for the past month, and to see what she thinks about this project that I'm working on for her. So my goal for this project was to use one board so I could miter the corners and have the grain waterfall over each edge. To start, I cut everything to size and labeled it all out. I wanted to make sure that I kept track of the grain. That way I could 100% get the look I was going for. After that, it was time to cut all my miters on the table saw, and I just used my cross-cut sled to do that. To make sure I kept everything in order, all of the faces that I labeled, I had them face down. I took 45 degrees off of each corner. I already know that I'm going to cut these boards into threes, but I want to glue it up first and make one solid box out of it so that it's easier to handle. And then when I go to cut it later, I can get nice symmetrical cuts. Shout out to Pony with these clamps. I haven't used these band clamps in a long time, but they're really, really useful on boxes like this. Alright, so at this point, I want to strengthen these guys up, so I'm going to put splines in each corner. But if you remember, I'm going to be cutting these into thirds so that they're individual trays. So I have to make sure that the spline ends up on the center of each individual tray. So I'm going to go ahead and calculate that now and then get it done. Okay, so I went ahead and marked exactly where my splines would be, and then I marked where my cuts would be to separate the box. That puts the splines about 7/8 in on every single tray. To get these splines perfectly where I wanted them, I'm using this really cheap DIY spline jig. If you're interested in it or the crosscut sled, I have a video showcasing a couple of table saw jigs that I made. I'll put that link in the bio. If you're curious as to what a spline is, it's basically a way to strengthen joints. You take a slice out of your wood, put wood back into that joint with glue all wrapped up in it, and it ties those two pieces together. And it's also good for your aesthetic of whatever the piece is that you're making. So at this point, it looks pretty beat up, but we are getting there. I filled these slots up with glue, took my little slices of walnut, hammered those things in, and all that was left to do is let it sit and dry up. 2024 marks 10 years since I have been working under the business name the Reformation Woodshop, and have been tricking people into thinking that I'm a woodworker. And splines are a very quick and easy way to make people think you know what you're doing. So if you want a little decorative touch with a little mechanical holding power, splines are the way to go. Some people like to let glue set and dry and just scrape it off with a chisel. Some people like to clean it up with a wet rag. Sometimes I'm the chisel guy, but today, for this box, I wanted to make sure that it was perfect, so I cleaned it up really nice, so that way I didn't have to sand away any glue drip. And now another way to convince you guys that I'm not just a DIYer, I'm a fine craftsman. I'm using a dovetail saw on these walnut splines in this beautiful maple jewelry box. I am the man. Hand tools elevate you to be someone that you're not, and I love it. After chopping the excess of this walnut off of this maple box, I'm going to get straight to business with this sander, and I'm going to go ahead and give the whole box a once over and make it look nice and clean. Now it's time to cut it in half, or cut it in thirds, I guess. And pray that it doesn't look horrible after I'm done. Because I sanded it and made it look all nice and pretty, I'm using a sacrificial piece of MDF here because I don't want it scratching up against my table saw top. I measured as symmetrically as I could, and I'm just going to take this guy and rip it in thirds with a table saw. If you do happen to be following along and doing this project exactly how I'm doing it, I will say at this step, please be careful. This is not the safest way to make cuts like this. You could use a handsaw or a bandsaw. Even after watching these clips in editing, I think I could have lowered my table saw blade a little bit just to be a little bit more safe. So traditionally, you'd put your bottoms and your top in while you're putting your sides in of your box. But I wanted to do something a little bit different because I want them to be seated and nested together. And I don't want a traditional top. This is not the top of the box. This is a tray. I'm going to make a lid for it. So what I'm going to do is take a piece that I've pre-cut already in 2 of these and seat it about 50% of the way through. That way it can sit in here as the bottom of this tray, and I can take it and set it down on this one, and they'll nest together. I haven't really seen anybody do it this way, and maybe there will be complications that come with it, so maybe that's why they're not doing it, but I guess we're about to find out. I want the reveal to be equal all around, so I'm gonna insert this block of walnut, and I'm using these risers so that the walnut will just set on there. I'm gonna put glue on this edge, set it in there, and let it sit, and hopefully, if I stabilize it right, all of the reveals will be equal, and I won't have to do any proper measuring. This is not the most high level way to do box joinery. I'm just slapping some glue on these bottoms and sticking them straight into the boxes. Typically folks would be using a router at this point and inlaying things in places, but because I'm doing the weird nesting thing that I'm doing with these boxes, I'm just gonna clamp everything where it belongs and trust the glue. I'm moving on to the lid now. It's gonna be one solid piece of, I'm just gonna cut rabbets in it so that it seats itself on top of the top tray. I cut this oversized on purpose because I wanted to make sure that I could slowly hone it in as I go, because I didn't want to have to remake it. After all the bottoms were in the trays, they nested together well, and I sanded them for hours. I wanted to make a few dividers so that the trays weren't just blank, empty spaces. I ripped down some walnut, busted out my dovetail saw again so that I could feel even more like a woodworker than I've already felt through this entire video. Cut a bunch of strips to the exact length that I would be needing to divide a couple of these drawers into fourths and to halves. I used wood colored CA glue to make sure that these guys stuck in there forever, and I was actually really happy with how the color matched. After my trays were done, do not call this thing a box. I was about to call it a box. These are nesting trays, trademark pending. I went ahead and oiled this baby up because I want the all natural look. I got boiled linseed oil inside of every crack and crevice, over every piece of walnut, every spline, every divider, and every box. And it made every little piece and portion of this maple and walnut shine. I am really happy with this project, and to be completely honest with you, I feel like I really needed it. I haven't made something that's made me feel good about my skills in a long time. I've done a lot of videos recently over power tools and built-in cabinetry and stuff like that, but I haven't done something that has made me stop and breathe and really focus on what I'm working on and made me feel really good about my abilities. After all the drooling I did over these trays, it was finally time to reveal to my wife this beautiful Valentine's gift that I made for her. You can look.
What is it?
It's a jewelry box.
Oh, wait. Oh.
It's trays.
Oh, that's cool.
And that one's pretty
Are those my rings? Where were they?
They were in the front yard.
No, they were not. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. So you had them this whole time? I hate you.
I had them for like a month.
Oh my god, babe.
They look good on you.
Oh my god, I'm so happy.
All is right in the world.
If you watched this video and thought to yourself, man, that was so good, how can I give this guy money to repay him? Then you're in luck. I have a lot of stuff listed on my Etsy store that you can buy to support the channel, so head on over to reformationwoodshop.etsy.com to grab something.